Hello everybody, this is DearMamaSal, and it's Monday morning, and I want to tell you the temperatures have shifted quite dramatically. We're now down to 9 Canadian and 48 American. Goodbye summer, hello fall. So pretty chilly. It was actually pretty chilly in the house this morning, which makes me think that we're not far away from me having to turn on some heat. I try and delay that for as long as I can. And I'm actually feeling pretty good. I had a great evening last night. As you might have seen, I went out for dinner with a friend of mine and an acquaintance of my friend. I mean, in other words, somebody I know through my friend. And I don't know that person particularly well. I've met her at various birthday parties and social events, but I don't know her well. Anyway, but she'd been having a few issues, and my friend Marnie, who some of you have met in previous broadcasts, she thought it was time that we got together and had a chat. And for those of you who've been to the broadcasts, you know that she wanted a little bit of wit and wisdom and maybe a 2x4. So the good thing was that the friend actually agreed to have dinner with me. So I went and had dinner, and it was absolutely amazing. And I only hope that she actually comes to the broadcast and talks about her stuff, because it was amazing what she's been through. This is somebody that's been happy all her life, to the point of being really happy all her life. And, grew up in a family that didn't accept anything other than happiness, basically. I mean, you had every reason to be happy, why aren't you? And therefore she had absolutely no skills around coping with anything other than happy. And that was really amazing. And then one day, the happy thing went to the extreme, which is called manic. And of course, following manic highs come depressing lows. And so this really rocked her world. This was some time ago now, but it really rocked her world completely. She had never been in these places before, and she ended up in hospital, she ended up under care, she ended up in all sorts of places she never dreamt she would go to. And that's scary stuff when you're middle-aged. It's scary stuff for anybody. The good news is she still has a loving husband. And I say that because so many times when these things happen, and it happened to me, the husbands just walk away. And that is what happened to me. So I was very, very aware. And my heart bled for her, because she obviously went through a very hard time with it, but has come out the other side, so we know she's a survivor. But what she didn't know is what to do next. And of course has an absolute terror that this episode could repeat itself. And my comment to her was, not if you learn the skills to be able to be more aware of when you're starting to climb, and to learn the coping skills to teach you how to drop it back a peg or two. Or if you're dropping below the line, which a lot of you know about, how to bring yourself back up a little bit. Because it is normal for us to get a little bit hyper and a little bit down. That's normal. And as long as you've got pretty good coping skills, you will get back up to normal, to the middle line, if you like, when that happens to you. It's when your coping skills are not there, if you don't have them, that what happens is you drop below the line and you don't know how to get back up. Or the things that used to work for you are not bringing you back up. And then you turn into victim. And once you turn into victim, then you crash. And I know I've got a lot of viewers who've been that route. I have very few that talk about having been out of control on the manic side, on the high side. And so it was a fascinating evening to hear her story. And so my question really was around what does she want to do about it? If I could give her a magic wand and give her a present as the fairy godmother, what would she want to have? And very few of us know the answer to that immediately. But it's a good question to ask yourself. If a fairy godmother or the genie stood in front of you tomorrow and said, okay, fine, you have one wish, not three, one. What would you like to have happen now? And when she gave it some thought, and I gave her the space to give it some thought, she said, I'd like to learn how to cope. So I said, join the broadcasts. And then she told me all about how she didn't know how to do that. And I said, find somebody who can teach you. And then my friend Marnie, basically, she asked Marnie and said to Marnie, do you know how to do it? And Marnie said, well, actually, no, I've never done it either. And so then I looked at her and I said, I know how to do it. Of course, I was way too obvious. She never thought of me. Which really amused us all. But the other really great thing about the evening, and it was a long evening because we started at 5:30 and we didn't leave there until close to 11, I think, or 10:30 at least. So it was a really great evening, and we had a great waiter. His name was Gregory. Just a really great guy. I so enjoyed him. And, every now and then you meet somebody who makes your meal more enjoyable rather than less. And the meal was excellent anyway, but he really did make it more enjoyable in so many little ways. And it's not often I will ask permission to give a waiter a hug, and I did ask if I could give him one because he made our evening so pleasurable. And I will do whatever I can today to find the time to write a note to his boss and thank him for his kindness and humor. Really nice humor. So there was a real number of lessons that I thought we could sort of bring back to the group. And one of them, of course, was that we all have times in our lives where things go wrong. Whether it's midlife crisis, whether it's death of a family member, whatever it is, each of us have those moments in our lives. And what became so obvious to me yesterday was that the number one thing that you really need, if you're lucky enough to have a spouse that will stick by you through that, then that is really awesome. If you happen to have a spouse that sticks by you through that, and also have friends that will stick by you through that, that is even better. And she was lucky enough to have both those. And I can remember when I went through my stuff, I was lucky enough to have friends. I don't have the sort of family that tolerates any sort of mental disorder, although, you know, pretty sure that they suffer from it to some degree. It's just like, you know, to them that's a stigma, and our family doesn't do that sort of stuff. Well, guess what? It's not true. And so I went through it, and I don't consider myself to be what can I say, any less of a person because I went through it. In fact, quite the opposite. I think I'm more of one because I have greater understanding of the pain, of the anguish, of the rejection, of the stigmatization. I have a really good understanding of those things now, as I know some of my viewers do. And at the time, did it anger me? Yes. Did I get really frustrated with it? Yes. Did I pray for understanding? Yes. Did I get it? No. And did that make me more angry? Yep. And then did I get more depressed? Yep. It was just like a vicious circle. And you know, it was really strange because the only time it changed for me is when I didn't care anymore. I didn't care whether they understood. I wasn't sort of waiting for them to acknowledge it. I just knew what was happening, and I knew I had to get better, and it would take time. And I did. And I learned a lot of coping skills on the way. And it was really funny because during all of that, I learned a lot of things about a lot of things. And I actually ended up, and you might have heard me talk about this before, but I ended up having not even half the number of friends, probably an eighth of the number of friends I had before. Because I really didn't have the patience for the ones that only were friends in the good times. And there weren't too many that were friends in the bad times. And so it's not that I am not polite to them or whatever, but you know, it puts them in a slightly different realm. And you know, people have said to me, you know, why, as some of you know, a friend of mine has moved in because she's hit some bad times again. And so for the second time in as many years, I think, she's really struggling. So people say, well, why would you let her live with you? Well, why not? Why not? Isn't that what friends are for? And do I think it will take her some time to get herself going and employed again and self-sufficient? Yeah. And how will I manage to fund that? I don't know. Lower my lifestyle a bit, lower hers for sure. but it's doable.